Any questions on 185? Or I proceed further?
So that means one company can give to other company in the same group and charge interest at 7%. That can be done.
Sir, please repeat the question, sir.
One private limited company can give loan to another private limited company and charge 7% interest. That can be done.
You have to give for some more facts, sir. Company A private limited gives loan to B private limited. That is the question.
Yes.
And it charges, say, a rate of interest of 12%, say 12%. Whether that is exempt under section 185 or not, that is the question. I am saying I cannot answer this question by only these facts. You will have to give me some more facts. Who are the directors of A private limited and B private limited?
Same director.
If they are same directors, is A private limited in NBFC or not an NBFC?
Non-BFC.
It's not an NBFC. So will it be able to get that exemption? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Who is paying interest?
But it has to be in its ordinary course of business.
No.
Is it in its ordinary course of?
No.
So it can't avail that exemption. If it can't avail that exemption, then from here it is giving loan to whom? To another private limited company. Look at clause D. Is the director of the lending company also a director of the receiving?
Yes.
You said yes.
Yes.
So it is hit by that clause D. So loans cannot be issued. You will have to look at all the facts and then come to a conclusion whether section 185 will.
Deposits can be given.
Eh?
Deposits can be given.
I started by saying loans include deposits in their ambit. I started by saying loans do not include debentures. I further said loans will not include genuine advances, but financial accommodations which have been camouflaged as advances will surely be included. So deposits are loans, there is no doubt. Any other questions, please? Any other question? So we move from here. We have seen deposits. We have covered loans to directors. We have covered both receipt of money and we have covered both dividend of money. Now we are left with what topics? We are left with 42 and 62. We are left with director's report. That's all. Anything else? Eh? No, depreciation is not. And private limited and exemptions to private limited companies. Right. What it is, I have the SMS. 186 we have. Friends, 186. There was at one point in time an argument that section 185 is overridden by section 186. I must tell you that is simply historical because that argument had no relevance or basis at all. Section 185 starts by an expression which says it is subject to the otherwise provisions of the Act. Since it is subject to the otherwise provisions of the Act, there was an argument that there is another provision for giving of loans and making of investments under section 186. And if you are compliant with section 186, then you don't have to bother about section 186. Majority of the experts across the country have not agreed with this view. And even those who propagated this view at the initial stage, even today they are not agreed with this view. The answer is very, very clear that 185 is a special provision. It is applicable only when a company gives loan to these special entities. whereas 186 is general in nature. It covers loans given by a company to each and every person. So this being a special entity, it is not overridden by 186, right? Now what is 186? is comparable to section 372 capital A of the Companies Act 1956. Only one small subsection has been added to section 186, which differentiates it from earlier section 372. Rest all, subject to some minor changes, is absolutely same as the earlier section 372. This one subsection which differentiates is subsection 1. Subsection 1 says that no company can make investments through, it says a company can make investments through not more than 2 layers of investment companies. So the concept of layering has been introduced in the Companies Act 2013. Subsection 1 is only 2-line section, and it says that a company can make investments through not more than 2 layers of investment companies. Now what do you mean by layering? Layer means a vertical spread, one above the other. Layered does not mean a horizontal spread. One beside the other is not a layer, one above the other is a layer. So and layer has been defined in the Companies Act to mean only subsidiaries. So layering companies are subsidiaries. A company can make investments only through how many layers? 2 layers of investment companies. There cannot be a third layer. So how many companies are needed? Maximum 4 companies can be there. One is the company which is making the investment. 2 can be layers, layer 1, layer 2. And the last company has to be the operational company in which the money ultimately goes. So company A can put in money in its subsidiary company B. Company B can put in money in its subsidiary company C, and company C has to put in money in company D, which is actually an operational company. There cannot be more than 3 investment companies in between. What is more important to understand is who has to comply with this section? Which company has to comply with this section? Company A has to comply with this section. And interestingly, see, company may not even put in a single rupee, and still it may violate this section. Company may not do any action at all, and still it may violate this section. For example, say there is a company company E in Mauritius, and it is an operational company, it is a manufacturing company. This company E in Mauritius is a wholly owned subsidiary of a company D which is based in Mumbai. This company D in Mumbai is held by a company C, right? So which is its holding company? So company C is the holding company of company D. Company D is the holding company of company E, which is based in Mauritius. I want to acquire that company E in Mauritius. I am company A. I want to acquire that company E in Mauritius. I have several options. I can acquire the entire shareholding of company D from company E, right? Or I can acquire the entire shareholding of company C, so that the moment I acquire company C, I will also have company D, I will also have company E. I decide to acquire the entire shareholding of company C, right? But I don't acquire company C directly myself. I acquired the entire shareholding of company C through my subsidiary company B. So my subsidiary company B is acquiring, I have not put in any money. My company B is acquiring company C. B is already my layer. C has now become my layer. D was already C's layer. How many layers have come in between? I have violated section 186. So while acquisitions, you have to be very careful that there cannot be more than 2 layers, no matter whether you are creating the layer or not. Even if there is an existing layer, you cannot create more layers more than 2. Am I clear? Right? This is one small subsection which has been added. Otherwise, section 186 more or less, more generally, is same as section 372A. One other major change in 186 and as compared to section 372A is, section 372A was only in respect of intercorporate loans or intercorporate investments. It got attracted only when money was driven by one company to another company, either by way of loans or by way of investments. When money was driven to another individual by way of loan, or when money was driven to a partnership firm by way of loan, 372A did not get attracted. 186 is applicable even when money is driven to any person. So even when company is giving loan to its employees, even those will get covered by section 186. That is what was the law until recently. They have only 15 days back come out with a clarification which says that loans driven by a company to its employees, and when such loans are given as a part of conditions of their service, then those loans will not be covered by section 186. Those loans will not come within the limit of 60% or 100% as is provided in this particular section. Am I clear? A very recent notification which has exempted loans driven by companies to their employees from the applicability of provisions of section 186. Right? One more provision that you these are the exemptions which are provided in section. One of the conditions of section 186 is that loans cannot be given by a company at a rate of interest which is less than the yield provided on gilt securities depending on the tenure of the loan. If it is a 1-year gilt security, 2-year gilt security, 3-year gilt security, then depending on the tenure of loan, your rate of interest on the loans which you have given also has to match or should be more than those rates. Right? So, interest-free loans not permitted either under section 185 or under section 186. But if you are not falling under section 185 and if you can come out of section 186, then interest-free loans can also be given. For that you need to look at what are the exemptions provided in section 186. Section 186 does not apply, the whole of the section does not apply. If the loan is given by a banking company, by an insurance company, by a housing finance company, by a company engaged in financial companies. Companies engaged in financial companies are those companies whose principal business is to provide finance. Those companies are generally non-banking financial companies. I am not referring to this exemption because NBFCs are governed by the RBI guidelines and their again provision of loans without interest would be covered. I am only talking about the last point. If you are a company which is engaged in the business of providing infrastructural facilities, even a real estate company is a company which is engaged in the business of providing infrastructural facilities, then those companies, the provisions of section 186 does not apply. If provision of section 186 does not apply, then those companies can also provide interest-free loans to entities which are not covered by section 180. See, majority of these real estate companies, they receive money from Bhutan in advance. So they always have surplus funds at their disposal. These surplus funds are generally put in other group companies which are carrying on businesses. If these group companies happen to be covered under section 185, then you cannot avail any exemption. But if these group companies are not within the ambit of section 185, then you can still provide interest-free loans because 186 is not applicable. Clear? Right? Friends, this is all about section 186, 185. If you have any specific questions on 185, 186.
Private limited companies no exemption, 186? No.
Private limited companies, sir, I have a separate, or what I do is next I will deal with what are exemptions available to private limited companies. So that one question will get settled, right? Rinaji is reminding me that there are 2 more topics left for me to discuss. So I have to rush a bit. It's already 12 10 and I have time, 50 more minutes left at my disposal. Right. Friends, exemption notification was issued on 5th of June 2015 and several provisions of the Companies Act 1956 were exempted subject to certain conditions in respect of private limited companies. I will take you only through the important exemptions which I feel are important. If you want to ask me about any other exemption, I shall be free to discuss that, but I will take you through those exemptions which I consider are more relevant. Right. 2 subsection 76, there is a small change. The speaker after me will be dealing with related parties, so I am not touching on this exemption. 43, 47 I will skip, 62 I will skip. '73 deals with deposits. While talking about deposits, I told you that this clauses A to E of 73 subsection 2. What were the clauses A to E? You remember all those conditions which I listed on the right hand side. Special resolution, and below special resolutions there were several conditions. All those conditions are covered in clauses A to E of section 73 subsection 2. They will not apply to a private company which accepts from its members monies not exceeding 100% of aggregate of its paid up capital and free reserves, and such company shall file the details of monies so accepted to the registrar in such manner as may be specified. So you can accept money only up to 100 times of your paid up capital and
100%.
100%. Sorry, right, 1 time of your paid up capital and free reserves. 100% of your paid up capital and free reserves. Now, free reserves. There was a dispute whether free reserves will include securities premium or not, and they have now clarified that yes, free reserves will also include securities premium. So it is now paid up capital plus securities premium plus free reserves, your net worth, 1 time of your net worth, that is the maximum amount that you can receive from your shareholders if you are a private limited company, subject to your filing with the registrar details of monies which has been received in the form which may be specified. No such form has been specified as on date, but very soon we will have a form for that and you can thereafter accept it. I had already discussed this while I was talking with deposits, but this is the notification that has come in. This is one of the major reliefs that has been provided to private limited companies. Section 101 to section 107 and section 109 do not apply to private limited companies. Friends, if you remember, under the earlier Companies Act 1956, section 171 to section 186 was not applicable to private limited companies. 171 to 186 deals with the manner in which a private limited company can conduct and holds its general meetings. Now, 101 to 17 and 109, it will not apply to a private limited company unless that section itself makes it applicable to private limited companies, or unless your articles provide for a particular section being made applicable to you. I'll explain what I am saying. For example, the section itself says that in case of a private limited company, the forum in a general meeting shall be such and such. 104 or 105 is the section which says that section will not change. That will remain as it is, because the section itself is provided for private limited companies. But there is section 101 which says that the length of the notice for convening an annual general meeting shall be 21 clear days notice. That section is not applicable only to private limited companies. That is applicable to all the companies in general. Private limited companies can in their articles provide for a lesser number of days. They can provide for 3 days notice for AGM, they can provide for 7 days notice of AGM, 21 days notice of AGM is not applicable to private limited companies. So your articles have to be suitably drafted so that you can take advantage of this section. But if the section itself specifically provides something for a private limited company, that cannot be done. Am I clear? Yes. Right. Major relief. I am sure you all must have been very, very happy when this particular notification came. There is a section 179 in the Companies Act which says that certain powers the Board of Directors can exercise only at the meeting of the Board of Directors. In the Companies Act section 179 subsection 3, about 6 or 7 powers were listed. And the last power was such other powers as may be specified. And the rules provided for 8 more powers which can be exercised only at the meeting of a Board of Directors. So totally 15 odd powers were there which the board could have exercised only at their meeting. And 117 3G said that all those board resolutions are required to be filed with the registrar of companies. So every other day we were only filing forms with the registrar of companies in respect of every resolution that we passed in case of a private limited company. Besides increasing the cost, it was also exposing the affairs of private limited companies to public at large. And this was understood. This requirement of filing has been done away with. Now private limited companies are not required to file their board resolutions with registrar of companies. There is only one board resolution which every company has to file, and that is a board resolution with respect to appointment of a managing director. No other board resolution. Right? I'm sure you all as auditors must have felt very happy when this notification came in, that the limit of 20 companies did not include private companies or small companies and government companies or one-person companies. You all must have already acted upon it, though I personally felt that this exemption was a little too late. The damage was already done in the previous year itself. So, but nonetheless, some advantage you can take in this year by getting back those audits which you had to leave forcibly in the previous year. 160, 162, 180 doesn't apply. 160 deals with appointment. 160 is a very important provision. 160 is appointment of a director other than a retiring director. That requirement of obtaining 1 lakh of deposit, 1 lakh as deposit, if you are nominating a person as a director in a company, that will not be applicable in case of private limited companies. So in case of private limited companies, if you are appointing any person as a director, you don't have to accept a deposit of 1 lakh. A major relief, I would say, in case of private limited companies. 180 was similar to section 293 of the earlier act, and 180 said certain powers the board of directors can exercise only after such powers has been delegated to it by the company in general meeting. Now these powers, you remember that if you have to sell if you have to sell, lease or dispose of any undertaking of the company, you require shareholders' approval by way of an ordinary resolution now. That section 180 has altogether been done away with in case of private limited company. Same was the situation under the 1956 Act also. 293 did not apply to private limited companies. 184, 185. 185 notes to directors. See, I told you that they have given some exemption to private limited companies. I also told you that this exemption is only an eyewash. This exemption will not be available to any private limited company that I am aware of. See the conditions. A private limited company is exempt from section 185 subject to conditions, and tell me which private limited company will be able to avail this exemption. What are the conditions? In whose share capital no other body corporate has invested. So if a private limited company has, only if a private limited company has individual shareholders and no body corporate as a shareholder, only then it will be able to avail this exemption. 99% of your companies will be out. 99% of them will surely have body corporates as shareholders. At least 99, and those companies which only have individuals as shareholders, they don't have monies to give as loans under 185. I hope you are able to understand what I am saying. Only if you have body corporates as shareholders, only then you have money to lend. Individuals कितना पैसा डालेगा आपके पास? And see the other condition. If the borrowing of such a company from banks or financial institution or any body corporate is less than twice of its paid up share capital or 50 crores, whichever is lower. So if you have borrowed money from a body corporate and such borrowing is more than twice of your paid up share capital, see the stupidity. It is only twice your paid up share capital. Your premium is left out. Your free reserves are left out. If your company has a paid up capital of 1 lakh and 99 lakhs as premium amount, you can borrow money only up to 2 lakhs. So even if you have borrowed money up to 2 lakhs, and say if you have borrowed money of 5 lakhs of rupees, you cannot give loans. 185 is not exempt. I state, whatever be the intentions, the idea is not to provide exemption to private limited companies from section 185. This is only to satisfy or only to create an illusion that we are giving exemption to private limited companies under section 185. But if you go through the conditions, none of the private, kindly go and see the balance sheets of any private limited company that you audit and come back to me tomorrow and tell me which of your private limited companies will be able to avail this exemption. I am sure not one of you will come back and say this. I am very clear that there is no exemption provided to private limited companies, at least in reality, in practical sense, though theoretically we have exemption to private limited companies subject to these conditions. 188 I am not covering because the other speakers will cover, the others are not covering. So these generally are the exemptions which are available to private limited companies.
196 and
196 is managerial remunerations.
no, more than 70 years. We have got special resolution. That
Yes, sir, tell me.
under section 196, if the directors are more than 70 years old, you need a special resolution. That is exempted.